All right, it's now time for the question and answer portion. If you have any questions you'd like to ask Courtney, write them down. Volunteers are circulating with pieces of paper and pens. Write questions down, and I'll ask Courtney directly. So, to start off, what you do so much amazing work with these kids, and you did it in the U.S. and in Korea. What made you take this path? What made you get into this? If it's not too personal.
No, to be honest, it started when I was a child. I was really young, and I remember seeing news reports of children who did not have families or who were abandoned. And I remember one night at 8 years old, laying in bed crying. And ever since then, that's just been something that I felt called to do. And I have my own son. So before I had him, I always wondered, did I really love these children the same way I would love mine? Right. But after having my son, I can tell you it's absolutely possible. The one boy that I took in, I absolutely love him as much as I love my son.
So you just have a really big heart. That's what it is. All right, so working in the U.S. and in Korea, what are some similarities and differences between these institutions?
Well, in Korea, there's a lot more institutions. In America, we don't really have, like I know in Korea they're referred to broadly as orphanages. In America, we tend to have more foster homes, or small group homes. That's a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's see. All right. One of these questions. Have you ever heard of a divorced woman having to put her children into an orphanage before like a second husband would marry her? I know I've heard of that as a thing too, and someone else apparently has.
With that,
I'm not sure.
You know what? Typically what happens is it's not when they go to get married, it is actually once they are divorced. So they have the opportunity to meet somebody. And yes, absolutely, I can't name names, but I absolutely have names of children who've been in those situations.
So, looking at your charts, you had a lot of really interesting graphics and stuff. Yeah, there was a lot of numbers, so this might not be correct when I was trying this out. But your chart showed in 2006 that there was a little under 10,000 children that were institutionalized, whereas like now it's a little under 7,000. There seemed to be like
No. Those numbers were not a whole. Those numbers were not a whole.
Okay.
That number was for the year.
Okay.
So you have to take that number and add it to the kids that never left the institution.
Okay.
So the number is much higher.
So there's not like a decrease in children
going
to the orphanages?
Well, there's a slight yearly decrease of children going in.
But is that tied to the birth rate, the lower birth rate?
Yes, exactly. Okay. And there's also less children that are coming out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So it's not getting
it's not a significant change.
It's not really getting any better.
No.
All right. So cupcakes. You mentioned cupcakes.
Oh yeah.
So you told us how we can get them. How is that program developed? It seems like it's a great program, and I've had them myself, and I love them. They're amazing. And I know the girls get really into it. How was that developed?
It was actually on a whim. I love to bake. I really enjoy cooking and baking. And when I first came to Korea, I didn't know the girls particularly well. And when you have a language barrier and a cultural barrier, and I'm this foreigner going in, and so sometimes the kids are like, "Oh, who is she?" I thought, what better way than food to bridge that gap? Everybody likes cupcakes, and a lot of the staff has gotten excited, and the aunties will come in and they'll be baking as well. So
that's excellent. Yeah. Sounds like it's a really great program. Switching gears a little bit, you talked about the mental and emotional side effects of not having a family. So, do any of the children that don't end up getting adopted reach like a healthy mental state? They're functioning members. They can be functioning members of society, but like emotionally.
That's a hard question to answer. I actually know one child that is in college now. He is very functional. He can go to school. He's very smart. He's very stable. It can happen. Sometimes it depends on the personality of the child. Like some of us, I was a rebellious teenager. I definitely needed parents. Had I not had parents, I would not be standing here talking to you today. And so, yeah, it is possible, but it's always better for those children to have support and a support network.
And then you talked about IQs. I don't know if you know any of this research, but is there any difference between the IQ of the children that have parents and the ones that don't? Like the ones that stay in the orphanage, but the ones that have some interaction with their parents?
You know, that I do not have numbers for, or statistics. I don't know if there's been a study done, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. It'd be something interesting to find out. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have even thought that IQ and
Yeah.
family were so closely related.
Well, part of it's because there are a lot of there's a lot of bonding. There's a lot that happens in the brain before you hit the age of 2. Scientists are still understanding that and discovering that. And a large part of that is the baby bonding with their primary caregiver, mom. If you don't have mom and you don't have a primary caregiver, those things cannot be developed.
And then, so you've worked with orphans in both the U.S. and Korea. Is there a big difference between the orphans themselves, personalities, mental states, in any sort of, I mean, culture obviously does impact
The
that.
main difference between orphans in America and orphans in Korea is if you're an orphan in America, you can grow up, go to college, and nobody cares. You're not limited in the job you can get. You're not limited in who you can marry. You're not limited in opportunities. And also, like 2 presidents of the United States were orphaned as children.
I wouldn't even know that. Yeah.
Johann Sebastian Bach, and Babe Ruth. I'm sure you've heard of Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth learned to play baseball in an institution. So these children, if they're supported, you know, who knows? There may be, yeah, if they're supported, yeah.
Right, okay. So you showed some pictures of your own son with the kids. Does he interact with them a lot? What is the relationship there?
When he goes over there with me, he actually usually disappears into one of the rooms with the little kids. And yeah, it's the typical, Mom, yeah. He loves them.
So your job is obviously a roller coaster. There must be some really great moments, but there's obviously some really tough moments. How do you manage that burden that you might have emotionally?
Trying to think of an answer for that one. You know, sometimes, to be honest, sometimes you get sad, and sometimes you get very angry, and sometimes I get frustrated because I'm a single mom with a child, and I am a foreigner, and so I have no family. Like, I don't have a support system here, and so for me, it's frustrating. It can be really frustrating for me to see another child who's left there, and also I saw how hard that was on my son, and I couldn't imagine putting him in that situation.
Right, exactly. Well, we had a lot of really great questions today. We have one last question for Courtney to wrap it up, but if you have anything, feel free to come talk to Courtney after the talk and getting involved or anything you can do. So finally, do you have a great success story? A moment that you're like, this is all worth it, everything that I've done?
Ooh. To be honest, I don't have a particular story, but I don't know, there's moments, I don't know, one of my favorite things is when I go and I get a hug.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I don't know. Like, yeah.
Makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your great talk today, Courtney. Thanks.